Hey, what's up, Consistency Virgin Gang? Hope you're doing well. I'm doing pretty good. I've been watching a lot of content lately, specifically talking about Pokemon cards, which cards catch on them, just been digging at all that stuff, whether it's investment, collections, top 10, all the things that people have been looking at about cards, because there's a specific topic in this hobby that fascinates me to no degree. I don't personally like collecting for money too much. If a card has some value, that's awesome, but I very much like cards that I like. I very much like art that I like, and I very much like Pokemon that I like. But there's a lot of people that just look for the next trend, the next big thing when it comes to Pokemon cards, the next big money card. And looking at top 10s, looking at things like that, a lot of people will put in their input on it. A lot of people will fucking say, oh, this card's doing this because this is the way things are. Oh, this trend has been a thing since the past, so this is a good card to put your fingers on. And like, I like having rules that are basically something you can like put down. I like having a staple that makes sense. And when you can't apply a rule broadly, when you can't just apply something overall, then it sometimes just doesn't work out. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and there's just weird issues with it. For example, cards that are big cash money right this second versus cards that are not. Once again, I don't personally care, but just the way people come to these like logic and leaps fascinates me. For example, I will say, and I've got a few cards lined up that it just absolutely blows my mind. The 151 thing's always been a crazy thing to me because people always say the same shit. People are always like, Kanto this, Kanto that. It's always going to have the biggest stopping power. It's always going to have the biggest nostalgia factor. It's always going to make the most dicks hard of fucking 34-year-olds, 36-year-olds that remember Pokemon in their youth. And it will always have a special place in their heart, which is why all the Kanto cards are crazy in demand and why sets like 151 are hype. And that's cool. I get that. I understand that's how a lot of the nostalgia bait happens. But then you'll look around, you'll see other cards that follow this kind of same exact rule, and they don't get near the actual recognition, even though they fall into that. For example, the biggest example I will always bring up is Pidgeot EX from Obsidian Flames. Obsidian Flames is a set that gets trashed to absolutely no end. It gets shat upon by tons of people, and I truly don't think that set is near as bad as people are comparing it. Some people compare it to like Darkness Ablaze from Sword and Shield, and Obsidian Flames is leagues better. It is 100 times better than anything Darkness Ablaze shits out. Darkness Ablaze has some okay cards in it. I think some of the rainbows, I think some of the full art cards, especially Salamence and Scizor, I believe those cards are in that set. Like, those cards rock. I think those cards are fantastic. There's a nice Crobat that was floating around. Even like some of the other cards that people aren't paying too much attention to. I think the full art trainers that were like, what, Piers and Rose, if I do recall. I like those cards a lot. Pidgeot is one card that sits in Obsidian Flames that always fucking confuses me. There's a Charizard in that set too. We'll get to that here in a second. See, a lot of people have issues with crystal hats. They used to anyway. We'll get to that here in a sec too. They used to have a big problem with crystal hats, which is why the Charizard from Obsidian Flames didn't really catch on too well. People were like, it's Charizard, but once we take off the stupid hat, then like call me back. And then 151 came out, didn't have a stupid hat on, and people were like, oh yeah, now we're talking. Cool, makes sense. Pidgeot is a Gen 1 Pokemon, a very popular Pokemon. People love the Pidgey line. People love them to death. And this one has no hat on it. Not one. You see a hat on that fucking head? No, you sure don't. It is a beautiful SAR. It's done by Jerky. The art is cool. And people just don't flock this card like they do for other cards, even though it is a 151 powerhouse. And it's always confused me. Like, why is that? Do people not like Pidgeot? Is Pidgeot not worth people putting money into? People have sunk money into stupider cards. People have actually pumped up far dumber cards in the Scarlet and Violet era. People try to do all kinds of goofy stuff to just pass that line. This card is objectively better than the Pikachu EX that's really popular right now. That has a crystal head on it too, but like this card is objectively better when it comes to art direction and things people claim to have liked, especially watching some of the old like top 10 or top 20 videos that came out like a few months ago or something like that. Like, this shit blows my mind that it's not even a $20 card. It absolutely blows my fucking mind that a Gen 1 Pokemon like this, that the fucking money bros and the nostalgia guys like, it does not have even a $25 price tag. It's insane to me. Further keeping this discussion going, there's a lot of AR and IR cards that kind of follow this same narrative. A lot of people push up specific cards, like Raichu's kind of expensive because of what it is. Magikarp is kind of expensive because of what it is. They're like Gen 1 Pokemon, Gen 1 powerhouses. Persian got that same pass. There's a ton of cards, like Ninetales too. There's a ton of cards that really don't get like that kind of treatment as well, even though they came out in sets similar to it, or they have that same similar appeal, such as this Slowpoke right here. By everyone's logic and by everyone's fucking thing where they say like, oh, Gen 1 IR Pokemon are going to be like the most sought after ones. They're going to be the biggest hype. They're going to be the top cards that you could get. These ones right here, they don't fucking make sense to me because Slowpoke is a popular Pokemon. This is a Gen 1 Pokemon. It's from Scarlet and Violet base. There is a decent amount of fucking IRs to pull from that set. The pull rate for that can be a little bit wonky. There's a ton of cards to get from it. And Slowpoke, for some reason, just sits at like a humble like $8 to $10 card. Even though cards in similar sets, such as Raichu and stuff like that, they'll sit at like 30, 40. And people don't care about the art. I don't care what people are going to tell you about that shit. Like, people that are like kind of just walking in this hobby and trying to dump some money into it to get some money back, they don't care. They don't give two fucks about the art. And they proved this shit whenever they looked at Pikachu EX and was like, cha-ching, yes please, awooga, awooga. But then they look at cards like Garchomp over here that objectively looks better. I get it. You don't like the crystal hats. The crystal hats are stupid. Oh, it's an SIR, but it's not in like an actual setting. It's just in a whirlpool water vortex. Oh yeah, explain Pikachu. All Pikachu has is a fucking patch of grass that it's walking on. Other than that, it's a fucking crystal Pikachu. There's just a little bit of grass on the fucking field. And people are like, okay, that's good enough for me. He's technically in a setting. Fucking Garchomp has a water type hat. The water looks fucking cool on Garchomp, by the way. The colors look great. The fucking texturing on this is cool. It's an objectively good looking card. And it sits at fucking $18. You know, back when people were like fucking first like knocking this card, it was because of the crystal hats. It was the terrestrial hat shit. People didn't like that. It was something that kind of consistently made sense. But now that everyone's up Pikachu's asshole and everyone's all talking about the evolutions and all that shit, when you look back at it, when you truly look back at this kind of stuff, it legitimately doesn't make sense. Garchomp looks good in this state. The fucking water move it's using and the water it's surrounded by makes complete sense. There is no rhyme or reason to what happens here, and I truly do think a lot of it is just based on hype. Fucking case in point, man. Like, a lot of people are talking about specific cards from Gen 2 that are going to be, like, in the up-and-coming, like Houndoom and Skarmory. Meanwhile, you got this Phanpy sitting here, and it's like $4. And I'm not saying that's, like, it should be $4. I'm glad the cards are affordable. Do not misunderstand what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to wrap my head around the fucking mindset of how people decide which cards they're going to push up, because like even the PokeTubers, even the investor bros, those motherfuckers don't do it either. They literally report on the shit and they look at the charts and they go like, whoa, that's a crazy number, we should chase this, guys. Like, they don't fucking make this shit move either. It's like people in the secondhand market, fucking feet on the ground, first products that are being open, first look from Japan, and they're like comparing that to the English counterpart, and they're looking at that and they're fucking listing stuff up. The first people to list a couple of their cards up and people that are willing to buy it. That's what ultimately decides how cards are fucking pushed out. And then of course, what people are willing to pay, the hype around certain cards, the things that are being generated. Obviously, PokeTubers and shit like that help, but that's not really what does it. Phanpy, following logic and following bullshit like of other cards, should easily be like a $15, $20 card. It's crazy to me. Here's Saguaro. I have nothing to say about Saguaro. I just like this card. I think it's a very underrated card. I think it's a very underrated card. Sitting at $4. Beautiful SAR card. Beautiful SAR card. Look at that. Jigglypuff, Squovent, you got yourself it's not even Iron Bundle, guys. That's actually just Delibird. That's actually just him. Just, you know, Pokemon people like, I get like Squovent, you guys don't like Gen 8 Pokemon. I completely understand. It's shit like this where you look at it and like if people truly like cards for the art and what was being presented on the card and that kind of drove value, it for sure would be like, and then the playability factor, all cards are playable, Opossum. Pidgeot was extremely playable. Pidgeot was dumb playable. It like stupidly playable. There was a winning combination with that for a fucking long time, and just no one's going to tell me this place makes sense when it comes to like the fucking mafiosa deciding which cards are going to push up, which cards they don't. You can find all kinds of contradictions with what people say. You can find all kinds of contradictions and fucking outliers to the rules where it absolutely makes no sense for what people are saying. Because if people truly liked things like they said they did, there would at least be like some movement on something. There would at least be like some people trying to do some shit. And whether you like it or not, that's completely fine. Whether you want to fight back against it or not purchase anything, or you want to purchase a bunch of it, makes sense. But like when people just completely ignore specific cards based off of certain rules, but then they'll go flock to other specific ones, it's not because they like specific things. A lot of it has to do with hype and getting on a fucking train to follow cards. And that's why I don't take anyone's opinions on cards here really too seriously. Not most people's anyway. There's some people that have some solid reasoning, solid takes, and solid actual arguments for why they like cards, but most people here, it's not. They follow what the fucking line tells them to follow, and they'll do it. And when you point out cards like this, they're going to have some stupid reason for like, oh, well, this card had pull rates, so this card had fucking... The art on this one's not as good. Art's subjective, my guy. There's definitely people that would have disagreed with the art argument. There's people that would have disagreed. If you guys like the Pikachu, then the Garchomp should be a fucking hidden gem everybody's flocking back to right now. And be like, oh, you know what? The Crystal Hat's rock now. Oh, well, look at this one. One that actually fucking looks good. Whoa, it's crazy. I get if people don't like Ice Cube. And I guarantee those fucking Crystal Hat Charizards, motherfuckers are going to backtrack to those and be like, yeah, we liked these the whole time, when they didn't. Everyone knows they didn't. Everyone knows they backtrack is happening when it comes to that. I don't know. It's just one of those things I sit and look at and it just drives me fucking wild. That's all I got. Appreciate it, Virgin Gang. See you later. It's like a fucking code. There is no code. There is literally just a line that is drawn by someone on the secondhand market and people just follow it. There's not opinions. There's not cards people like. For the most part, it's a fucking sheep train. It really is. Like, it's so, I don't know. It's goofy as shit.